Hi, we are doing series of video lectures on digital communication. We started with module number 4. This is the second video for module number 4. Last time we have discussed ISI and the condition for zero ISI. So this was the condition for zero ISI both in time domain as well as in frequency domain. To the right side of your screen, this condition here, which is in orange color box, is the condition in frequency domain for zero ISI. And this is what we have plotted the spectrum in frequency domain. And on the right, the blue color box represent the time domain condition for zero ISI, and this is the pulse. This is the particular kind of structure of the pulse that we need for zero ISI. So these are the ideal cases. Now if you go back to the spectrum here, let me so if you go back to the spectrum here, the requirements are very stringent and rigid, I would say, because the transition at the cutoff frequency, see the cutoff frequency is RB by 2, the transitions here are very abrupt. Getting this kind of transition in or realizing this kind of filter, okay, it practically is kind of not feasible. Okay, so we cannot have this kind of solution. Instead we need to look for a practical solution. So there must be a certain kind of solution which can be physically realizable. So there is a kind of waveform which is known as raised cosine. There's a cosine waveform, so which is the practical solution for zero ISI. So we're gonna see to it. Okay, now you see the bandwidth here for the ideal condition is B naught RB by 2. So this is going to be the ideal bandwidth. This is the requirement, ideal bandwidth. Okay, but practically we might need a bandwidth larger than this. Okay, so we might have to do a trade-off in terms of bandwidth to get something which can be physically realizable to have zero ISI or negligible ISI. All right, so we have something called raised cosine spectrum. So this spectrum is not it is somewhat similar to the ideal spectrum, but with the condition that you don't have abrupt transition. Instead of that you have gradual transitions. So you see the spectrum obtained for zero ISI is basically a rectangular pulse sort of function in frequency domain. We have just checked it out. Okay, like this. Okay, and the physical realization, as I have just told, with this abrupt transition here at cutoff frequency is something that is not possible. Okay, so we need something with not abrupt transition but gradual transition, as you can see here. Okay, so we need something with gradual transition. Okay, must be introduced in the spectrum of PF. So in this spectrum we need to introduce a gradual transition instead of abrupt transition, because you might have noticed how low pass filter looks like. A low pass filter looks like this. So you see there is no abrupt transition something like this. Instead there is gradual transition something like this, and that's what is actually possible. You cannot have something which is having abrupt transition. Okay, so we need to introduce, as in the second point here it is clearly written that we need to introduce, okay, we need to introduce certain kind of gradual transition in the spectrum here, in the same spectrum. Okay, to get something which can be physically realized. Okay, so something like this. Okay, if we have something that like this, we can realize it practically. So that's this kind of waveform. The one in dotted blue color is called raised cosine spectrum. So if you get a frequency response of this sort, then it is known as raised cosine spectrum. Okay, there's a mathematical definition to it. We are not going to derive it. Instead I'm going to write the function straight away, and then we will try to plot some of the values to understand how it is and how it works. So this is how a raised cosine function looks like. Looks pretty lengthy, but it is not actually. There are parts in which you have to understand this. So we have a spectrum PF such that it's up till the first cutoff frequency. Okay, f1, its value is going to be TB. If I go back in the previous discussion, okay, one second. Okay, you see what is the amplitude here? TB. If you see the spectrum amplitude is TB. So in raised cosine spectrum, up till some frequency f1, the spectrum is going to be TB. Between f1 and f2, the spectrum is given by this value, TB1 plus cos pi by 2 mod of f minus f1 b naught minus f1. What is b naught? B naught is the ideal bandwidth. How much is the ideal bandwidth? RB by 2. We have already discussed. I have written here as well. B naught is the ideal bandwidth. F1 is given by 1 minus alpha b naught. B naught is the ideal bandwidth again. Alpha is the roll-off factor. The type of gradual transition that you want to introduce in the ideal solution, that is actually the roll-off. That is called roll-off, the gradual transition. Instead of abrupt transition, if you introduce gradual transition in the same spectrum, that is called roll-off, and that will be indicated by alpha. So we're going to take alpha and we're going to plot for different values of alpha. Okay, and after the frequency f2, you don't get anything. So basically this is the raised cosine, the middle one here. It is TB by 2 1 plus cos pi by 2 this. So you need to kind of remember this. Okay, RB is the bit rate, alpha is the roll-off factor, f1 and f2 are cutoff frequencies for a given roll-off. So up till f1, the amplitude is going to be TB. Between f1 and f2, okay, if you're choosing the selecting the frequency between f1 and f2, it is going to be given by this particular equation. And after f2, you should not get anything in the spectrum. Okay, so this is called raised cosine function. What we're going to do here, we're going to plot for different values of alpha, that is roll-off factor. Let us start with taking a value of 0.5. Okay, so if I take so this is the function that just now we have studied. If I take alpha is equal to 0.5, first of all I need to figure out what is my f1 and f2 cutoff frequencies. So f1 have a formula. Okay, f1 is given by 1 minus alpha b naught. Alpha value is 0.5, so you'll end up getting 0.5 b naught. So half of the ideal bandwidth is actually f1. Okay, let us go for f2. f2 is given by this relationship, twice of b naught minus f1. So twice of b naught, what is f1? f1 is 0.5 times of b naught. So I'm going to put it here, 0.5 times of b naught. And f2, the second cutoff frequency, turned out to be 1.5 times of the ideal bandwidth b naught. So we got f1 and f2 now. We're going to go to the first condition here. Okay, the first condition says till f1, the value is going to be, the amplitude of the spectrum is going to be TB. Between f1 and f2, it is going to be given by this equation. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to check at b naught. What is the response at b naught? So I'm going to put f is equal to b naught here. If I put f is equal to b naught, so this and this, the numerator and denominator will become same, and you'll get cos pi by 2. Cos pi by 2, cos 90 degree is actually 0. So you'll end up getting TB by 2. So that means if you select the frequency f is equal to b naught, the ideal bandwidth, you are getting TB by 2. So from TB, it will reduce to TB by 2. Till f1 it is TB, more than f1 because f1 is less than b naught. It is f1, the value of f1 is 0.5 b naught. So till 0.5 b naught, the value is going to be TB. At b naught, if you put b naught here, so this numerator and this denominator will cancel. Cos pi by 2 give you 0, so you'll get TB by 2. So at b naught, you'll get TB by 2. Okay, and at between f1 and f2, it will slowly decay. So let us see here. Amplitude of the central frequency at f is equal to f naught. So if you put here, you will get TB by 2. So in place of f, if you put b naught, you'll get TB by 2. Okay, let us start plotting it one by one. So this is the spectrum. Okay, frequency. Now till f1, if you see here, till f1 here, the amplitude is TB. So till f1, the amplitude is TB. We have plotted it. At b naught, the amplitude is how much? It will reduce to TB by 2. So at b naught, you can see it is reduced to TB by 2. And between f1 and f2, it is between f2. What is f2 value? F2 value is 1.5. So between 0.5 b naught to 1.5 b naught, there will be a gradual transition. So it will look like this. Okay, f2 has not been mentioned. Okay, I'm going to mention it. So what is the bandwidth? Okay. So bandwidth is, if I expand it, yeah. So bandwidth is highest frequency, that is f2, minus the lowest frequency, that is 0. So bandwidth is how much? 1 f2 minus 0. F2 is how much? F2 is 1.5 times of V naught. So overall bandwidth for alpha is equal to 0.5 is 1.5 times of B naught. So keep this in mind. Okay. Now let us take another value of alpha, or the roll of factor. Let us take alpha is equal to 1. Yeah, alpha is equal to 1. Then we're going to find out f1 and f2 through respective relationship. If I put alpha is equal to 1, I'll get f1 is equal to 0. If I put this is the relationship to find out f2, f1 value is 0, you'll get twice of b naught. So overall bandwidth has been increased now. Last time we have seen it was 1.5 b naught, now it has become twice of b naught. Then we try to find out the amplitude of PF, that is the spectrum at b naught. It turned out to be TB by 2 again. Alright, so we'll plot it and we get it. So at b naught we see the amplitude is TB by 2. Okay. Alright. So what is the conclusion here? The conclusion is the practical solution of zero ISI requires bandwidth somewhat larger than the ideal bandwidth. You see here, the bandwidth is how much? The bandwidth here is actually double of, okay, if you can see here, the bandwidth is twice of B naught. B naught is the ideal bandwidth. But if you want to design the system practically, you should have more bandwidth than B naught. That means the pulse width must be wider. If you have a wider pulse width in time domain, then you will get narrow spectrum. And if you have narrow spectrum, okay, then things will be easy. Okay. So in both the cases, whether alpha is equal to 0.5, you got bandwidth larger than B naught. And if you have put alpha is equal to 1, okay, you have got bandwidth twice of B naught. In both the cases, the conclusion is the practical solution of zero ISI requires bandwidth somewhat larger than the ideal bandwidth, or the bare minimum. Suppose B naught is the bare minimum requirement. You are getting both the time when you have put different value of alpha, you got it was greater than the ideal bandwidth. All right. To solve this problem of ISI, all we need is a wider pulse width. Okay. Now, as we have seen that bandwidth requirement is more than the minimum bandwidth. The minimum bandwidth is B naught. But we are, every time we are getting the requirement which is more than B naught. Okay, 1.5 B naught or 2 B naught. Okay. So in practical solution, zero ISI requires bandwidth somewhat larger than the theoretical minimum. Theoretical minimum bandwidth is how much? B naught, ideal bandwidth. But we need more than that. In case if we try to reduce the bandwidth, suppose you want to try to reduce the bandwidth, what will happen? ISI will happen. Okay. And if ISI happens, distortion happens. So what do we do instead of so in order to conserve the bandwidth, because ultimate goal is to conserve the bandwidth. In order to conserve the bandwidth, ISI is going to be introduced in the signal in a controlled way. So you're not going to eliminate ISI this time. Instead, you are going to embrace. Okay, you're going to embrace the ISI. Okay, you're going to use the property exploit ISI to get no interference. Okay, how you're going to do it? That method is called correlative cone. So you're going to add ISI deliberately in a very controlled way, in a very careful way in the transmitted signal, so that you will have an understanding of interference. And once you have an understanding of interference, you try to reduce the interference or you try to eliminate the interference. Okay, this is scheme of control ISI is actually called as correlative coding or partial response scheme. So just to summarize again, the bandwidth requirement that we have seen practically is more than the ideal one. Okay, and if you try to limit the bandwidth, what happens? ISI happens. So in order to conserve the bandwidth, ISI is introduced in the system or introduced in the transmitted signal in a controlled way. This phenomena is known as partial response signaling or controlled ISI. Okay, what are the examples of this kind of technique? There are two pulses that we can produce with this method. The first one is called duobinary pulse and second one is called modified duobinary pulse. Alright, so what I'm saying is if you have the knowledge of two adjacent pulses, alright, then you can have knowledge of interference, because if interference happens between adjacent pulses, but if you create or carefully choose adjacent pulses so that you can have minimum or zero ISI, okay, that is called correlative coding. So what exactly I'm saying is, if we know the adjacent bits, then interference will be known to us. Something like this. Carefully we have to choose. This is one bit, one pulse. This is another pulse. You see, we are in time domain, not in frequency domain. Do not get confused. This was the condition of time domain. What is the condition of time domain for ideal? The ideal condition for zero ISI is P of t is equal to sinc RBT. So we have one sinc in the regular line, another sinc in the dotted line. They both have been arranged very carefully in a controlled manner such that at 0 and TB the value is 1, between 0 and TB the value is greater than 1, and in all the other instant the value will be cancelled out and giving you 0. Okay, this is correlative coding. Okay, so at 0 it will be 1, at TB it is going to be 1, between 0 and TB it is greater than 1 because it will add up, both of them are increasing, so they'll add up to give you better than. So it will look like this. We can achieve lower bandwidth by using an even wider pulse. So now if you see, the overall bandwidth is more than TB, it is equal to twice of TB. Not bandwidth, it's called the pulse width. So you have brought, earlier we used to take a rectangular pulse of pulse width TB. Now the pulse width is between 0 to 2 TB. So you have increased the pulse width. In case you increase the pulse width, your problem will be solved. Okay. So just to explain the function, Pt is equal to 1 at origin and at TB. Okay. Other than that, they're not getting any. So you can see that these two pulses has been carefully chosen so that at TB and at 2 TB, between TB and this pulse will remain between 2 TB and 2 TB, so it will be giving you overall pulse width of 2 TB, which is greater than TB, and that is the requirement actually. If you see here, to achieve lower bandwidth by using an even wider pulses. So if we have wider pulses, their frequency spectrum is going to be lower bandwidth, so that we can easily use any filter and take them instead of having infinite bandwidth. Alright, so it will something look like this. The same thing here. Okay, 1 at 0, 1 at 0, okay, and at TB. Between 0 to TB it is going to be greater than 1. So you can see the same waveform. But now if you see the pulse width is between 0. So pulse widths have been doubled now. Okay. You can see Pt is equal to 140, 0 and TB. Okay. At 1, if both the inputs are 1, the output is going to be 2. If both the inputs are negative, the output is going to be minus 2 volt. Okay. And if one is 1 and another is bit 0, the output is going to be 0 volt. Okay. So we're going to see the example of control ISI or partial response signaling, that means DO binary system or modified DO binary system, in next video.